My name is Alex, and for as long as I can remember, I've been invisible to my own parents, not because I failed, but because I never stopped giving. Yet, in my darkest hour, bleeding internally and desperate for help, they chose their luxury vacation over my life and my children's safety. It was the ultimate betrayal. This time, I wasn't just going to let it slide, I was about to reveal their true faces to the world and finally reclaim the dignity they'd spent decades trying to take from me. Don't ever ask us to cancel our cruise again. We deserve happiness too. My mother's angry voice echoed harshly through my hospital room speaker. I sat frozen on the bed, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles whitened, trying desperately to absorb her words. It was Thanksgiving Eve in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles, and I was lying helplessly in bed while my 3-year-old twins, Lucas and Lily, played quietly in the corner, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm raging around them. A nurse named Rachel silently adjusted the 4 attached to my trembling hand, giving me a sympathetic glance as my mother's tirade continued. "Mom, this isn't a minor inconvenience. I could die on that operating table tomorrow. I'm not exaggerating. The twins need you just for a few days," I pleaded, my voice weakening with each word. My father's deep voice suddenly broke through, cold and detached. "You've always created problems for us, Alex. We're retired now, and it's time you handled your own mess." I stared at the screen, speechless. For the past 4 years, even after losing my wife Sarah to cancer 18 months ago, I had dutifully transferred $3,000 every month into my parents' account. They had retired early, assuring me it was temporary until their investments stabilized, but the requests never stopped. I obliged every time, believing in the sacred bond of family support. Now, facing emergency surgery due to severe internal bleeding, I was being treated like an inconvenience, a distraction from their expensive cruise vacation to the Bahamas, booked months in advance. I ended the call abruptly, feeling numb. My entire life flashed before my eyes, childhood memories of being overshadowed by my younger brother, Kevin, the family's golden child. Kevin had always effortlessly commanded our parents' affection, while my academic awards, successful career as a software engineer, and even my marriage to Sarah had been met with mild indifference. Sarah used to comfort me with a gentle smile, reminding me, "We'll build our own family, Alex. One filled with real love." And we did, until cancer stole her away, leaving me alone to raise Lucas and Lily. The hospital room felt colder than ever, and my thoughts were interrupted only by Rachel's gentle touch on my shoulder. "Alex," I overheard the conversation. "Listen, my friend Sophie is a nanny who specializes in caring for children who have experienced trauma. Let me call her, she can help." "How much will it cost?" I asked immediately, anxiety creeping into my voice. Medical bills from Sarah's treatments still haunted me, and every dollar mattered. "Let's worry about that later," Rachel replied softly. "Right now, your health and your children's safety come first." Watching Lucas and Lily giggle innocently while stacking blocks, I felt a fire ignite within me. The realization hit hard. I'd been supporting my parents' extravagant lifestyle while struggling to ensure my own children's security. A sudden determination took hold. With shaking hands, I logged into my banking app and canceled the monthly transfers to my parents' account, redirecting the funds toward child care expenses instead. As I pressed confirm, my chest tightened, not from physical pain, but from the weight of breaking a toxic bond one had mistaken for loyalty. Within seconds, notifications flooded my phone. Missed calls, angry voicemails, frantic texts from my parents demanding explanations for the canceled payments. But among them, a message from Kevin stood out. "Alex, Mom and Dad just called me in a panic, saying you're cutting them off without reason. What's really going on?" It dawned on me then, my parents had lied to Kevin about the severity of my situation. With nothing left to lose, I typed a swift reply, exposing the entire painful truth: my emergency surgery, their refusal to help, their blatant disregard for my well-being. Kevin's response came swiftly, a wave of anger and disbelief clear in his words. "Alex, I had no idea it was that serious. They told me it was just a routine procedure. You were exaggerating." "I'm so sorry, I would have helped immediately." For the first time in my life, my brother had chosen my side. Perhaps this betrayal by our parents was the wake-up call he needed too. Hours later, Sophie arrived at the hospital, instantly bonding with the twins and easing my fears. As medical staff prepared me for surgery, my phone vibrated continuously with demands from my parents. But I no longer cared. This time, I wasn't going to be their victim. As the nurses wheeled me toward the operating room, I felt oddly calm. Despite the uncertainty ahead, I had finally taken a stand, cutting ties with those who never truly loved me and making room for those who genuinely cared. For the first time, I felt hope, a fragile, powerful hope that my children and I would emerge from this stronger, no longer trapped beneath the shadow of false family loyalty. The surgery went better than expected, though the recovery ahead promised to be grueling. When I finally opened my eyes again, I found Sophie sitting nearby, gently reading to Lucas and Lily, who listened intently, curled up against her. The tenderness of that scene nearly broke me, reminding me how desperately the twins needed stable, compassionate adults in their lives. My phone lay quietly beside me, its screen flooded with unread messages, most of them angry accusations from my parents. But strangely, instead of dread, I felt a newfound strength rising within me. I was no longer willing to be manipulated or guilt into silence. Yet, buried among my parents' frantic messages was a notification from Kevin that captured my attention. His message was short and filled with urgency. "Alex, call me as soon as you can. Things have escalated." I dialed Kevin's number with unsteady fingers, my heart pounding in anticipation. "Alex, I'm glad you're awake," Kevin answered immediately, his voice tense. "Mom and Dad are spreading a completely twisted version of events to the family. They're saying you abandoned them financially out of selfishness, that you're making up your illness to punish them." I laughed bitterly. "That's ironic, isn't it? After everything I've done for them." Kevin sighed heavily. I confronted them. "They're drowning in debt, Alex. They refinanced the house behind our backs to fund their extravagant lifestyle, the cruise, Dad's new luxury SUV, Mom's jewelry. They relied entirely on your monthly payments to cover their lifestyle, and now they're panicking." I leaned back, absorbing the weight of his words. All this time, I'd assumed I was helping them survive comfortably, but I was only fueling their illusions of grandeur. They'd never even considered the toll their selfishness took on me or the twins. Kevin's voice lowered to a whisper filled with remorse. "Alex, I feel like an idiot for never seeing this. They always painted you as distant, uncaring, but you were carrying them all along, weren't you?" "Yeah," I said softly, my voice cracking slightly. "And look what loyalty got me, alone in a hospital, begging strangers to help raise my kids." There was a brief silence before Kevin spoke again, resolutely. "You're not alone anymore, brother. I've got your back now. I'll make sure everyone knows the truth." Before we continue the story, I want to connect with you, my wonderful viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. I know you might be watching this video alone, so let me remind you, wherever you are not alone, because at the very least, right now, I'm here sharing this story with you. The next few days were surreal. Kevin kept his promise, posting a heartfelt video online, revealing our parents' manipulation, my hospitalization, and the reality behind the facade they'd carefully maintained. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support poured in, not just from relatives but complete strangers who resonated deeply with my story. My phone buzzed constantly, but now each notification carried encouragement and validation instead of blame and shame. Meanwhile, Diane and Richard Bennett spiraled into panic. Their carefully constructed illusion was unraveling in real time, with friends and family confronting them, demanding answers. Still, they clung stubbornly to their narrative, claiming victimhood even as the truth came crashing down around them. One afternoon, Sophie handed me my phone, her eyes wide with concern. "Your parents are here," she whispered anxiously. "They're demanding to see you immediately." My pulse quickened. Gathering every ounce of strength, I motioned Sophie to stay with Lucas and Lily and slowly made my way down to the hospital lobby. Diane and Richard stood waiting, expressions alternating between anger and desperation. "Alex," my mother began, her voice trembling theatrically. "We need to talk. Privately." "There's nothing left to discuss," I replied calmly, standing my ground. "You made your choice clear when your cruise mattered more than my life." My father stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "We made sacrifices for you too. Your mother and I built our lives around supporting your ambitions." "Sacrifices?" I echoed incredulously. "You refinanced your home without telling me, blew it on vacations and luxury goods, and then expected me to quietly foot the bill. All while ignoring my children, your grandchildren, who desperately needed you." Diane's eyes filled with tears, though whether genuine or strategic, I couldn't tell. "Alex, how can you be so cold-hearted? We raised you. You raised me to believe love had to be earned through endless sacrifice," I said quietly. "But I refuse to let my kids suffer the same fate." My father's face hardened into a mask of cold fury. "Fine. If this is how you repay us, don't come crying when you're alone and miserable." "I've never felt more clarity or peace than I do now," I replied firmly. "Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad." As I watched them storm angrily out of the hospital lobby, a surprising calm washed over me. Despite the pain and grief, I had finally broken free from decades of emotional manipulation. Heading back to my room, I found Lucas and Lily giggling happily with Sophie, safe and unaware of the turmoil they'd narrowly escaped. At that moment, I knew I'd made the right choice. The road ahead was uncertain, but at least it was finally mine to choose. In the weeks following my discharge from the hospital, life took on a completely new rhythm. Sophie seamlessly transitioned into a vital part of our small family, bringing warmth and stability to Lucas and Lily, who quickly adored her. Meanwhile, my relationship with Kevin continued to strengthen, evolving from distant brothers into genuine friends, bonded by shared disbelief at our parents' betrayal and a growing determination to rebuild our family on honesty and compassion rather than obligation. Yet, as my life gradually found stability, Diane and Richard's deteriorated rapidly. Without my financial contributions to sustain their lavish lifestyle, their house of cards collapsed faster than anyone expected. Kevin kept me updated, revealing painful truths he'd discovered along the way. They'd secretly leveraged everything, even their once fully paid home, to fund extravagant purchases and risky investments recommended by acquaintances. Now creditors were knocking at their door, and reality had finally caught up to them. One morning, while preparing breakfast for the twins, my phone buzzed relentlessly with frantic messages from both parents, their anger now replaced by desperation. Diane's message was starkly revealing. "Alex, we're about to lose the house. They've given us 60 days to pay the overdue balance, or we're on the streets. We never thought you'd actually abandon us completely. Please, help." Reading her words, I felt a wave of bitterness surge within me. Abandon them? After everything they'd put me through, their entitlement was still staggering. Yet part of me felt a faint tug of ingrained guilt, an echo of the son who'd always tried to please them, always placed their needs above his own. Sophie, noticing my tense expression, placed a gentle hand on my arm. "Alex, remember, you owe them nothing. Your loyalty belongs to Lucas and Lily now." She was right. Any hesitation vanished at the sound of my children's laughter drifting from the living room. I typed a simple yet firm reply to Diane and Richard. "You chose luxury over family. I choose my children's future over your irresponsible past." Their response was immediate and furious, filled with accusations of ingratitude and cruelty. But each toxic word only confirmed the truth I'd finally embraced. Real love never demands sacrifice to feed selfish desires. A few days later, Kevin called with surprising news. Diane and Richard had escalated their attempts at manipulation, publicly accusing me of financial abandonment on social media, trying to portray themselves as innocent victims betrayed by their ungrateful son. However, their plans spectacularly backfired. Relatives, friends, and even casual acquaintances flooded the comment sections, pointing out glaring inconsistencies in their story and supporting me wholeheartedly. Embarrassingly exposed, my parents soon deleted their posts, retreating into silence. That silence didn't last. On a quiet Sunday evening, I heard a hesitant knock at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Diane and Richard standing outside, humbled and clearly uncomfortable. Opening the door slightly, I stood my ground, wary of another confrontation. "Alex?" Diane began, her voice barely above a whisper, stripped of its usual arrogance. "We just want to talk, please." Reluctantly, I let them inside. Richard, who had always radiated authority, now appeared drained, diminished by stress and humiliation. They handed me a folder filled with unpaid bills and debt statements, their expressions pleading for understanding. "We need $14,000 immediately," Richard muttered softly, avoiding eye contact. "We know we've made mistakes, but we're your parents. You can't let us lose everything." I shook my head slowly, calmly replying, "You had everything. You threw it away chasing a lifestyle you couldn't afford, one I was forced to finance. You can't guilt me anymore." Diane began to cry quietly, her tears more genuine than I'd ever witnessed before. "We've lost control, Alex. We never imagined you'd walk away from us. It was never supposed to end like this." I leaned forward, speaking clearly and resolutely. "Maybe that's exactly why it had to end this way. You were so confident I'd always be there. You never stopped to consider the damage you were causing. I almost died while you were sipping cocktails in the Bahamas. My children could have become orphans, and you never cared to check on me, not even once." They sat in silence, visibly shaken, confronted perhaps for the first time with the painful reality of their own actions. I stood, indicating our conversation had come to an end. I hope you both find a way through this. But I can't sacrifice my children's future to save your illusions any longer. As I closed the door gently behind them, the weight I'd carried for so long lifted, replaced by profound relief. I walked back into the living room, where Lucas and Lily rushed to greet me, their bright eyes filled with innocent joy. Sophie smiled reassuringly, and in that moment, surrounded by genuine love and loyalty, I knew I had finally built the family I'd always dreamed of. A family defined not by blood, but by mutual respect and unwavering support. 6 months passed, bringing profound changes to all our lives. Lucas and Lily thrived, their laughter echoing daily through the walls of our new home. A comfortable house we'd moved into just weeks earlier, thanks largely to my growing freelance software career. Sophie remained by our side, a beloved figure who had seamlessly become family, helping to shape the safe, joyful world my children now enjoyed. Even Kevin became a frequent visitor, nurturing a bond with his niece and nephew that felt more genuine and strong with each passing day. Meanwhile, Diane and Richard faced the full consequences of their choices. Forced to sell their once impressive home to avoid foreclosure, they downsized into a small apartment far from their former luxurious neighborhood. They sold off possessions they'd once cherished, Richard's luxury SUV and Diane's extravagant jewelry collection, to slowly chip away at the mountain of debt they'd accumulated. Their reputation within the family, once protected by careful lies and manipulation, was now shattered, their relationships strained or broken beyond repair. Unexpectedly, one afternoon, I received a handwritten letter from Diane. My fingers trembled slightly as I unfolded the page, uncertain about what I'd find within. Her words, carefully penned, revealed a sincerity I hadn't anticipated. Dear Alex, I won't insult you by claiming I was always a good mother. I wasn't. Instead, I was blinded by jealousy, greed, and my own insecurities, always expecting more from you than I ever dared to give in return. Watching you succeed despite everything we put you through has forced me to confront truths I'd long hidden from myself. We betrayed you when you needed us most. Your pain, your loss, and your courage to stand up for yourself made me finally see the harm we've caused. I am deeply sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, only acknowledgement of my regret and genuine sorrow for the damage I've done. Love, Mom. Her words lingered heavily, challenging years of bitterness I'd carefully guarded. Still, I hesitated. Could I trust that this apology wasn't another manipulation? One final attempt at regaining control? Days later, Kevin called to fill in the missing pieces. They're both in therapy now, Alex, he explained gently. Dad had a health scare, heart issues brought on by stress and high blood pressure, and it seems to have humbled him dramatically. I think they've finally realized the depth of their mistakes. I absorbed Kevin's words quietly, reflecting deeply on what reconciliation might look like. After several weeks of contemplation, I agreed to meet Diane and Richard at a neutral cafe downtown, deciding to confront them face-to-face before fully committing to a path forward. When I arrived, seeing them sitting nervously at the table, I was struck by how frail and humbled they appeared. Richard, the confident patriarch who had ruled our family with an iron will, now seemed vulnerable and small. Diane's eyes held genuine sadness as she greeted me softly. Thank you for agreeing to meet us, Alex, Richard began, his voice strained with emotion. We don't deserve your time, but we're grateful. He paused, struggling for composure, before something extraordinary happened. My father, who had never shown weakness before, openly wept in front of me. We've done irreparable harm, and I see it clearly now, he admitted through quiet tears. I was a terrible father and an even worse grandfather. I won't ask you to forgive us immediately or even ever, but please believe we deeply regret everything. Diane nodded quietly, gently wiping tears away. We've started counseling. It forced us to confront how toxic our expectations were. Alex, we lost sight of what family truly means and we hurt you deeply. Listening to their sincere apologies, I felt no anger or bitterness, only a sense of sadness and loss over the family we'd never had but perhaps still could create, slowly, cautiously, built upon new foundations of honesty and respect. Finally, I spoke. I appreciate your words, truly. But you must understand, my priority is Lucas and Lily. They deserve only healthy relationships and I won't compromise their well-being. If you genuinely want to know them, your actions must prove your words. We understand, Diane said softly. We'll do whatever it takes, however long it takes. Leaving the cafe that day, something profound shifted inside me. I had walked away from abuse and manipulation, discovered strength within vulnerability, and reclaimed the dignity I'd long surrendered. My past had finally loosened its grip, allowing me to build something new from the wreckage. At home that evening, Lucas and Lily rushed into my arms, their innocent faces filled with unconditional love. Sophie joined us, smiling warmly, embodying the kindness and loyalty I'd once doubted existed. As I held my children close, I realized this was the family I'd always dreamed of, not born from obligation or guilt, but built from genuine love, trust, and mutual respect. I knew the road ahead with Diane and Richard would be uncertain, perhaps difficult at times. Yet, standing firmly on solid ground, surrounded by those who truly loved and supported me, I felt ready for whatever came next. I had finally found peace, not by pleasing others, but by honoring my own worth and protecting the precious hearts entrusted to me, Lucas and Lily, who deserved nothing less. This story reminds us of something incredibly powerful. Real family isn't defined by blood alone, but by love, respect, and mutual support. Sometimes setting firm boundaries is essential to protect ourselves and the people we cherish most. What would you have done in Alex's position? Comment below 1 if you liked Alex's choice, or 7 if you prefer a different ending. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if it resonated with you, and subscribe to my channel, Tapestry of Worlds, for more heartfelt, emotional stories like this one. Thanks for watching, I appreciate you.